very fortunate to have a very diverse career. Several consultancies, several companies, and it's given me a different perspective than I might have had if I stuck within one particular area. Right now I'm working at Whirlpool, and we develop home appliances and solutions for the entire home, which is exciting. When I thought about co-creation, the things that I get out of it for product design specifically are both rational and then emotional. On the rational side, not surprising for those of us that do it now, are things like experiences, interactions, needs, and language. My background right now at Whirlpool is as a design strategist, but great research is really what defines great strategy. And right now I'm trying to get the great research in place. So we're very good at understanding the rational side, but I think the more fuzzy side, where you get things like meaning or emotions. We talked a little bit about motivations. That's really where the value comes when we're developing new products. But we can't always focus specifically on new products. What you find with co-creation is that you get a lot more out of it than that, whether it's services, whether it's higher level things that seem to offer the company value. And so if I had to think about what I observed, and I know this is a long list of things, they start off being kind of tactical and not surprising from a product perspective. It's great to have at the beginning of a project because that way you're very focused on what you actually need to accomplish within that project. We look for extreme users and extreme user behaviors. The thought being that if we take a look at the fringes, then not only are we going to cover the mainstream, but we're also going to see where things head in the future, and that allows us to do future planning. Visualization is especially important. I've seen co-creation done where it's a very verbal process, but unfortunately when people say the same word, they mean different things. And so that's why it's actually really nice to make sure you capture what you're talking about. The fourth thing is that we've been talking about co-creation here, and I'm sure there's a lot of meaning that goes into that, and we're all thinking slightly different things. When I hear co-creation, I think of it as a particular philosophy, but it's supplemented by a number of other methods and tools. And so for me, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's complemented by a suite of other things. The thing I'm most passionate about, because I think I've already kind of adopted the value of co-creation, certainly for the definition of products. The thing that frustrates me is being the voice of the user for other companies, whether they be clients or within my own, is, and I'm very impatient, which is part of my problem. I want them to be able to adopt all of the value that they really get from these co-creation sessions. And so I'm frustrated, number one, that projects are typically very tactically defined, and it's very hard to incorporate everything that we learn into company learnings. And the last one is the biggest frustration for me, is we may learn something. So I was working with a technology client, and one of the things that came out of the co-creation session was that they were organized in an ineffective way. Their consumers looked at what they offered in one way, and the company looked at them in another way. So they looked at their consumers and said, okay, you're either commercial or you are kind of home use. And they saw themselves in such a different way that it made it hard for that company to sell their services appropriately. But they said, please don't push that finding for us because we can't reorganize our company. Okay, so that starts to become a real challenge for us then, is how do we leverage everything co-creation can offer? If I think about reflection, thinking about the product first, the thing I like about co-creation is it helps you define what needs to be standard for all products, and then how do you modularize the rest to really give that element of personalization. Co-creation, what I've found too is if you can't do it all at once, you have to make sure it's captured and it's mapped in a way that people can look at it and say, you know what, there is a path. Even if we can't do it starting off, we can baby step our way into the ultimate benefits of what we learned from this co-creation effort. And then the last one is how can we help companies really evolve so they can continually wrap in the value that they learn from this ongoing research and make sure that they're really set up for success in the future. So if I take a look at my questions for debate, they're not really much about product at all. So I'm sorry if that disappoints those who thought they might be. But my question is, how do we maximize the effectiveness of co-creation to really drive change in large organizations? How do we help them do that? And then are there examples, and this is just a question to the crowd, of large organizations where they've really been able to use co-creation to develop or to implement these systemic changes?